another day.
Yes.
We are in season 3.
Oh, is this season 3?
Season 3.
All right, Greg's calling it season 3.
Season 3. I'm not calling. Our producer is calling it.
I don't know if she actually picked the episode.
She did.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Okay. Season 3.
This is season 3. This would probably be, I don't know the episode number. I'm going to say episode 3.
Episode 3?
Episode 3. Yes.
Oh, of season 3.
Of season 3. Season 3, episode 3 of season 3.
Why didn't you announce season 3 when it was episode 1?
Because I didn't know.
It seems like a funny time to announce episode 3.
So the exclusive, you now have season 3, episode 3 coming to you live.
Spoiler.
By season 5, we will have this podcast thing down. I promise. But in a great fashion, we have a wonderful guest on today. We are having Jose Rodriguez of College Unbound on our podcast today.
I heard someone talking about College Unbound. I'm interested in learning more about it.
It is college in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the Met.
Yeah.
When schooling in a whole different way.
Yeah.
But this is college in a whole different way, and why it's why it'll probably be very prevalent to people in our profession, not as podcasters, but as prevention specialists.
Profession with that.
We're so much, but for the prevention specialists out there and who are looking to advance, there's you have to have college degree.
Yeah.
And not everyone on this path has gotten their college degree or I don't know, whatever their situation is,
right,
but
the time or the
right.
Yeah.
And
the time is probably the big one.
But this is an opportunity for those prevention specialists to find schooling in a different way to help them achieve that degree for hopeful advancement. So it's going to be a wonderful time, a wonderful interview. And I mean, I'm really intrigued about his title. He's the Assistant Vice President of Community and Belonging.
I saw that. I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like we all need, I guess you and I do have fun titles.
You are the princess of prevention.
Yeah. I don't know what you're creator of opportunity.
Creator of opportunity.
I feel like everyone should have a title like that.
I think so. We should probably just walk around giving people titles.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I do this thing when I'm like people watching, and I create like their whole story. Like, this person is a hand model for Shutterfly. Who knows? Could be true, could not be true, but in my head it works.
You look at it, they have like one finger like
like, wow, this person does modeling for plants. Who knows?
But you see a lot of models.
It's an easy profession,
Yeah.
Good, if I see in a 3-piece suit, I can't think you're a contractor, so I have to think it's simple. But that's what's going on today on season 3, episode 3. So without further ado, today joining us on the Totally Preventable podcast, we have Jose Rodriguez, the Assistant Vice President of Community and Belonging from College Unbound. Jose, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Good to see you.
So to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And please break down what this title is, the Assistant Vice President of Community and Belonging. It sounds very intriguing. I'm interested.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unique position, particularly for a person of my colorful background. And I'll explain what that means.
Okay.
So I'm by no means your traditional academic, meaning I had a very rough road to the position that I'm currently in, which started with me dropping out of school in middle school, and not really putting a value on education simply because of my surroundings. I was surrounded by drugs, gangs, and prostitution. That's all I saw looking out of my window, which meant it's either you followed that or you were bullied for walking to the school bus to go to school. So that was the uncool thing to do. And when you make a choice to drop out of school at such an early age, kind of leads you down a very negative road because your options are very limited in what you can and can't do. So to no one's surprise, my road landed me straight into the training school, to the Rhode Island Training School. And furthermore, graduated to, or how they would say, I graduated at a time that I would have been graduating high school. I actually graduated to the ACI, which is the Adult Correctional Institution here in Rhode Island, and started on a path of criminality, whether by design or just circumstance. That's where I ended up. And, you know, I'm a fairly young guy in the ACI, seeing the parole board and coming to the realization that I was being perceived as a recidivist. And, you know, for those who don't know what recidivism means, it's just, you know, you're on a never-ending cycle of going into prison. And it was actually an older fella who I ended up being cellmates with, who told me, you're on the life installment plan, meaning you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison, just in a couple chunks here and there. And for whatever reason, that stung. Mainly because this gentleman was in his 50s, and was incarcerated for the same crime as me. He's, you know, carrying a gun, and, you know, and my thought was like, at 50 something years old, who do you have a problem with that you still feel the need to carry a gun? And that scared me to the point where, like, why would I ever want to be 50 something years old, sagging my pants in a cell, talking to a young kid about how tough I was growing up or whatever, which, you know, is irrelevant. So I started looking at alternatives, like what can I do? And really looking at the alternatives wasn't about reform. It was really about getting out of there as quickly as possible. You know, there's a thing called good time that you get for taking programs and things of that nature. And that led me to taking, you know, some nonviolence training, which really changed my perspective on how to handle conflict. And naturally, I didn't have a GED, so let me go ahead and go get a GED, because, you know, there's 60 days good time associated with obtaining your GED. And, you know, that's 2 months off my sentence. So I'm definitely going to go do that. But then I kind of like hit a wall, and was at a standstill. Like, I have a GED, but what am I going to do with it? I, you know, was released in 2010, really didn't have a plan. I attempted to go to CCRI, but quickly learned that I just didn't fit in the space. Not because of the way they deliver content, but really because I had a lot of lived experience already. You know, I'm 25 years old when I was at CCRI, but I had, you know, even with peers that were my same age, I just had a lot more lived experience than them, and our lives just didn't match. In that, you know, they're leisurely going to school, and I'm going to school as a last ditch effort to change my life. So I dropped out. And at the time of dropping out was also when I got a job at the Nonviolence Institute in Providence, being an outreach worker, kind of like trying to help to rebuild the same community that I helped tear down, which was helpful in many ways to help me find closure and identify areas in which I actually needed help. Because a lot of these things would have been perfectly preventable had I had the type of mental health services and stuff provided to me as a child, because of all the types of traumas that I was seeing within my community. So the Institute helped me get to that point where I was able to identify those areas and start to get help. And around that same time, I was introduced to our co-founder and now our president, Adam Bush, who was talking about this different way of learning and applying your lived experience to the classroom, and how you can get credit for the things that you've already done. Like, you've already mastered these things. Why would we make you take a class on them? That's kooky to make you take a class on something you've already mastered. And that just piqued my interest. You know, and that was back in 2013. So we're talking about 2012, actually. So we're talking about almost 12 years now that introduction was made. And well, 12 years later, I'm now one of on the leadership team here at the school. But that was the humble beginning of my journey to the seat that I'm at. The differences for me, and I think that it's important, is that this institution, College Unbound, allowed me to find myself, find my voice within my story, and help me articulate my story in a way that it could be impactful without being damaging to someone else. Wow. Because something that I've learned is that although my struggles were my struggles, my pain was my pain, in telling my story, sometimes I could be triggering folks because they could have been on the other end of, I was a drug dealer. So they could have been on the other end of drugs. They could have been, addicted to drugs, and I was contributing to that addiction. I went to jail for, some violence, some gun violence. I was talking to folks that were on the other end of that, where they lost folks due to gun violence. And College Unbound helped me recognize how to tell that story without being damaging to other people, which I think is an important part of recovery and a way to prevent things from harming others. It's an important distinction to make, that I don't ever want to devalue my story, because my story definitely is an interesting one, but it also led to where I'm at today. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't have all those experiences. However, I never, in telling my story, want to hurt anyone.
That was deep.
I'm a little weepy today too. So
That was, well, first, thank you for sharing your
thank
story.
you very much. Yes. Can you tell us who College Unbound is for?
Similar to my story, College Unbound was originally started for high school students who were transitioning into like a quote unquote traditional colleges and not being able to make it. And I don't want to say make it, because it just sounds like they didn't have the academic ability, but rather the school didn't have the ability to teach them in their style.
Mhm.
So originally it was planned and set out to be that thing. But very quickly recognized, Adam Bush and Dennis Lidke, co-founders, Dennis Lidke being the president who just stepped down. Adam Bush is now our president. Recognize it beyond the kids that were graduating the high schools that needed access to a college that understood who they were the parents of the kids that were graduating these high schools and all the community members that were involved in these kids' lives. And again, very humble in the beginnings, and it was just a Facebook post. They put a Facebook post out there on the, hey, we're thinking about starting this school. It's going to be this, and you're going to get credit for your lived experience, and we're going to find ways to get you to graduate quicker, and we're going to support you in XYZ way. To everyone's surprise, there was a large turnout. The community showed up for it, and the community wanted it more than actually, I think, and this might be just my opinion, I think the community wanted it more than even Adam and Dennis recognized that the community needed it. So that is our target. Anyone who has had to step away from traditional schooling because the school just didn't fit them. What we've recognized, and, my experience over the last 12 years here has been that we have a really high graduation rate. And the reason why that is because people are viewed as people and not as just another student, not just another number. I've had the luxury, and I'm going to call it a luxury because I don't think that I would have been exposed had it not been for College Unbound. But I've had the luxury of going to other institutions where no one could tell you how to contact the president. No one has direct access to the provost. Here, it's the complete opposite. You want to talk to the provost, email them, call them. We're going to make it happen. You're going to have that conversation. And it makes it a more family-oriented, community-based school than anything else.
What does College Unbound look like? Is this a 2-year or 4-year institution? Is what certifications are provided?
Thank you. So we pride ourselves in simplifying education, right? So we only have 1 degree concentration, and that's a bachelor's in organizational leadership and change. It was intentional to only have 1 degree because, again, studies will tell you that part of the reason that people step away is because they switch majors, they can't really decide. This degree is just meant to get you into the work field, to make you appealable to those who are in the position to hire folks. So we're accredited by NECHI, so the same institution as any other New England college or university. So when you think of Brown, Harvard, all those institutions were accredited by the same accrediting body. So the standards are the same. So we offer all the same rigor. However, we do have an intensive portfolio program that allows people to get credit for the things that they've already done. The good part is that also doesn't cost any money. So you could submit as many portfolios as you want, or to cover any of the general eds or the actual requirements, the core requirements, and it doesn't cost you a penny. which is also why we're graduating folks at a higher rate. So our average is about 2.5 years, even with folks that are coming in with 0 credits. We're able to get them to the 120 credits because we're utilizing that lived experience rather than, hey, just take 4 years worth of classes. However, we do have 4 years worth of classes if that's the route that you want to take, because some folks choose not to submit prior learning portfolios because they actually enjoy the schooling. You know, it's the thing that they were missing. And, you know, for our sites, whether it be in Newport, whether it be in Woonsocket, whether it be in Central Falls, one of the things, or Providence, one of the things that we do is that we provide food at the start of every class cohort night, which is either on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and folks are just breaking bread with one another. So it becomes, you'll hear me use the term family a lot, and that's the reason why, because folks are just sitting around a table having a meal together before they start their learning process. And at least my experience has been that is the thing that makes folks accountable, because now you're accountable not just to yourself, but hey, I got this group of people that I eat with every week, and you know, that depend on me being in the classroom and contributing. And that's what leads to folks actually like, yeah, I'm gonna fight through this, we're gonna make it.
There's that connection,
Yeah,
right?
you need it.
Yep.
You need it.
Yep. So where are you located?
So currently our administrative offices are in Providence, but we just, I probably should have mentioned this, but the school is designed to where anywhere that we don't have a physical building for classes. Wherever learning is happening is where College Unbound is. So we have what we call cohorts in Aquidneck Island, in Providence, in Warwick, in Woonsocket, and Central Falls. And we're continuing to grow. Outside of Rhode Island, we're in Chicago, Philadelphia, and Camden, New Jersey, and currently working in to build out programming in Seattle and Greenville, South Carolina.
And so it's nighttime.
Nighttime, yep. So all our classes, we're the school designed for the adult learner. So all our classes happen after 5:30 in the evening, and you know, our classes are done in 2 different ways: synchronous or asynchronous classes, which folks, you know, are basically choosing their learning style. So if like you're able to learn on your own, you take the type of class that fits your need. With the exception of that one class that the cohort where everything's built around, where you're getting, I call it, I refer it to as like an extended homeroom. Like, you know, you're getting all your support, you're getting connected to different resources, and you're also building out your curriculum and working with your lab faculty, which is what we call the instructor in the cohort, to make sure that you're on the pathway to graduation. That always happens in person. And that's either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on which location you're in.
And do classes run like a regular semester?
Yep. So
December or?
Yep. So we have summer, fall, and spring.
Now, what is the average cohort size?
Anywhere between 8 to 12. And it, you know, could we put more people in cohorts? Absolutely. But do we want to? Probably not. Because it takes away from, you know, that one-on-one time that you could potentially have with the lab faculty.
So does a cohort go only semester to semester, or does it go from start of the cohort to graduation?
So really good question. And yeah, no, so you're in the same cohort from the time that you enter until the day that you graduate, which presents very unique opportunities, right? Because no 2 students have the same track. So you start with 8 to 12 people, and, you know, within the first year, you probably see half of that group graduate. Mm-hmm. And then the folks that are graduating, we have a robust alumni mentor program, which basically it's our alums coming back to the school and being in the classroom, assisting the lab faculty and making sure that students are able to navigate their way to graduation. So, and why I say that it's a robust program is because we struggle with finding space for these alumni mentors to come back and contribute because of the fact that they're graduating at a high rate, and also people just don't want to leave. So we always find ways to stay connected to alums, and that's the way that we continue to grow the family. Because I was the head of admissions and recruitment for about 3 years before taking this AVP role, and the biggest push in enrollment always comes from alums. they had a really good experience. They're gonna tell their families, they're gonna tell their friends, anywhere that they go when they're asked about their educational journey, that you definitely, if you don't have a degree, this is where you need to go because of the experience that they have. So as that relates to my current role, and I'm sure that we would have got to that question eventually, it's fostering an environment where people feel welcomed, because that we know is the driver between alums bringing family members and stuff along to experience it as well.
Do you have to do all consecutive semesters? So if you can do fall and spring, but summer is just too busy for you, can you?
Yeah, so it's you pick what works for you. So we have what we call 996, which is basically you do 9 credits in the fall, 9 credits in the spring, 6 credits in the summer, which keeps you being a full-time student. You could come in and do 12 and 12, 12 in the fall, 12 in the spring. You can organize it so that it fits your life, which is, I think, the most important thing for an adult learner, is having access to something that fits their life rather than you having to fit into whatever traditional structure was already set.
It was like, this should have been like the protocol all along.
Right?
It just feels like it's, wow.
So full disclosure, I do not have a college degree. It wasn't for me. I tried. It wasn't, sitting in the classroom wasn't for me. I am a certified prevention specialist. I cannot get my next certification because I don't have a college degree. Even though I've been in our office the second longest, someone could come in with a college degree from 25 years ago in something totally unrelated and be able to be certified higher than me. So I'm totally intrigued by this, because I have this job, I have another job, and I just can't make time. Like I can't just be a full-time student from 9 to 5. Well,
But I'm here to tell you that you can be. So maybe
right.
this conversation was meant to happen, because we're gonna fix the you not having a degree thing.
Yep.
That's no longer gonna be a barrier for you, because we're gonna make it possible for you to be able to do what you need to do. Again, I'm gonna lean on the fact that most of the classes that you would take in a traditional school, you've already mastered whatever they were going to teach you. So my personal opinion is that there really is no need for you to take a class on something that you've already mastered. You just need to learn how to document it and come in and get your degree. And to that point, first semester students, classes are predetermined for them, with the purpose of making sure that people have the knowledge on how to put together those portfolios and are able to submit portfolios to get credit for the things that they've already done.
So to your point, Greg, like, how many people don't know about this? How many people are
A lot.
Right.
A lot of people don't know about it.
right? Because I've just been like, oh, guess this is where I'm at, because
And I was in your shoes as well. If by chance, divine into whatever you want to call it. I met Dr. Bush. Had I not met him, I don't think that I would have ever heard about CU. And this is many years ago. I think a lot more people know about us now than in 2012. And I think that with folks like yourselves, more people are gonna know about us. And it's really one of those things that if you don't know, you don't know. But we're here to make sure people know, right?
right.
Now, what is the application process like?
Yeah. So our application does live on the website. So it's collegeunbound.edu. It's the apply now button at the very top of the web page. And it is a fairly simple application. It's some basic information. The admissions process, however, is where things differ a little from other institutions, because rather than you just going on an endless email thread, we're asking for folks to have a few different admissions conversations. So everything's done through conversation. We're talking, we're trying to mirror the classroom experience in those interviews as well, so that you have a firm understanding of basically what you're getting yourself into, and that you're not blinded the first day of class and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. So admissions process is 1 to 3 admissions interviews, depending on your particular path. Then we ask that you provide a writing sample with a prompt. Basically, the prompt is around why college, why now? That you collect transcripts from any other institution that you've gone to before, and a picture of your high school diploma. That's pretty much it, and that gets you pre-enrolled into the school. And prior to the start, you will be asked to join what we call CU 101, which just further mirrors the classroom experience, so that you have the basic understanding of our learning management platform and things of that nature. So again, so that you come in prepared. My experience in other institutions was that you show up the first day and then you got to figure it out. We're doing the work beforehand to make sure that you're prepared for day one. So nothing is meant to be a surprise. And by no means does that mean that we have the perfect system in which you're going to come in and understand everything, because I think that questions are powerful and you should come into spaces asking questions. I think that this CU 101 workshop series does help you be better prepared, if anything, at least to know the terminology that's going to be being used in the spaces in which you will be in.
Now, in our field, we come across a lot of people who have been affected by different things. We're meeting a lot of people where they're at. For the person who may have lost everything, but they're trying to get back on track. Let's say, for instance, they can't get a picture of their diploma. They no longer have their diploma.
Yep.
What are they still able to take a different path to get?
Absolutely. So why I mentioned that the admissions interview could be 1 to 3 or maybe 5 different interviews, it's because of that. The admissions person will be working with you hands-on to get you through all those things. There's a million different scenarios that I can give you in which we help people get their documents through different avenues. But the thing is that you're not just left to your own vices. You have someone that's going to walk you through all these steps to make sure that you're successful. I think that in the word being student-centered means that at the center of everything that we do is the student and the student need and individual student needs. So we're not pulling people into particular buckets like, oh, everyone's the same. Even if you have similar experiences, come from similar backgrounds, come from the same neighborhood even, that doesn't mean that our lives were identical and we have different obstacles that we need to get over. And the admission person's job is meant to help people navigate those differences. One thing that I'll say, even in using the word admissions person, is that we're leaning to change the name to something that leans more towards a community organizer, because getting people to degree enhances the community that we're all living in. So it's just dope. And I know I may sound biased, but I have personal experience, so it's hard not to lean into that when it comes to how transformational education actually was for me. And I'm by no means am I special. Well, in my own mind, I'm special. But by no means am I special in the context of there's nothing unique about my struggles and or how I got to where I am today. I am just one of many. I am fortunate enough to have a voice in the space to be able to use it to highlight some of those folks. But that we've graduated at this point close to 300 folks, and all of which will tell you a different story on how they saw CU and how impactful CU was in their lives, whether prompted or not. They do lead with how transformational the school was for them.
I'm thinking about 5 or 6 people that we encounter throughout our work here that I'm like, oh, we got to tell them about this program. We got to tell them about this program. This is terrific. So I'm assuming they're your Aquidneck Island classes, because we're in Aquidneck Island, are at CCRI.
No, so again, we're our own institution. So
wrong again.
Yeah, we're our own institution. So we hold classes at Met High School on Aquidneck Island, which is in front of CCRI. Somewhat geography isn't my best subject, but it's within the area on Girard Avenue. It's 115 Girard Avenue.
While you were speaking, some of the terms you were using were reminding me of Met terms. That we have some Met interns here, and we hosted one of their forget what that was.
Senior.
It wasn't a senior project, but it was
No.
but so a lot of the same terminologies and ways of learning, it was reminding me of the map. So that's kind of.
So I should have leaned into that, but Dennis Lidke who is the co-founder of College Unbound, was also the co-founder of Big Picture Learning, which is
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
the Met High School. So yes, the philosophies do in some ways mirror each other.
Yep.
But with the differences would be the amount of rigor that folks are introduced to, and solely because we are accountable to our accrediting body, which means they set the standards that we have to meet. And it's the rest of the work is on how we make sure people feel connected to what they're doing, and not just another number, just another student. Like, you're connected in some way.
So is College Unbound a big picture school?
No.
Okay. All right.
But we were founded by the same, so the philosophies will always mirror. Although Dennis Lidke did step down, he's actually, as the president, he stepped down because he wanted to grow College Unbound into different areas. So when I mentioned Greenville and Seattle, that's some of the work that he's taking on now. And if you know a little bit about Big Picture, at least I'm at high school, started here in Rhode Island, being in Providence first, then Newport, then Aquidneck Island, and then basically taking over the United States, and then going in some areas overseas. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's well over 100+ schools worldwide that are utilizing that big picture model.
Now, though your story is your story, there will be a lot of people who can identify with bits and pieces of your story. Can you tell people who are identifying that, can you tell us what that feeling was when you received that piece of paper, that degree?
It was life-changing. But more than just getting the piece of paper, I graduated College Unbound a week before my daughter graduated high school. So to me, I didn't have that growing up. Most of the folks in my family didn't even make it to high school. So to have my daughter be in high school was, a win in itself. But having her be part of my graduation and watch me graduate, get my bachelor's degree, set the foundation for her then to graduate high school and then immediately go into college. She actually graduated from Rhode Island College this past May. So it was life-changing for me, but more important than it changing my life, it changed the perspective of my child's life, because she put importance on education because she saw her father go through it. And I think that for a lot of us that are growing up in these sort of pocketed areas in which crime thrives, is that generationally, unfortunately, we pass those bad habits down. And, now the habits that are being passed down are how important education is and where education can take you. So it was powerful just to hold the piece of paper. And in reality, I never really valued education, but the truth is education wasn't valued in the community that I was in. So hard to put a value on something that no one else values. I guess it's human nature that you are kind of attracted to things that other people are attracted to. But definitely, and by no means did I ever set out to be a role model, but I definitely understand the position that I'm in can lead to someone having a different perspective on something based on like, oh, I can see myself doing this now because I saw Jose do it.
Wow, congratulations.
That's awesome.
That is wow. Can you explain tuition and is there financial assistance or scholarships?
Yeah. So we're like I mentioned, we're an accredited institution, so that means that folks have access to Title V funds, FAFSA, Pell grants, and things of that nature. The cost of a semester for a full-time student, of the year, not just semester, it's about a little over $10,000. The federal Pell Grant is upwards of $7,300. With the gap, folks are either identifying assistance through employers, community partnerships, things of that nature, or taking out subsidized loans through their FAFSA application to cover the gap. But ideally, if you're graduating between 2 to 3 years and you're only taking the amount of money that it takes to cover the difference between Pell and the cost of tuition, it's, you know, a couple $1,000s per year that you're borrowing. And when you look at it through the a bigger lens, if you only end up owing $12,000 to $15,000 for your bachelor's degree, it's going to pay for itself over and over and over again because of the opportunities that you're going to be afforded as a result.
And is there assistance in filling out that paperwork?
Yes, there is. So again, everything, the start point is that admissions person, community liaison. I think that I got to start speaking that into existence, but the community liaison person will help you navigate all those steps.
I don't know how many FAFSAs I've filled out. Oh, I could probably come up with it, but it's probably like 12 FAFSAs. I have 4 kids, so I have filled out FAFSA many times. You have to fill it out for each kid each year. And I'm still not a pro at it.
To the point of being a parent, when it was my daughter's turn to go to college, I only understood FAFSA and everything that's involved with you being a student because I became a student. Had I not had that experience and she chose to go to college, I wouldn't have been able to help her. I would not have been able to offer her any type of assistance because at times it can be a process that's meant to exclude some folks, right? Because if you don't know how to do stuff or you don't know how to access things, you just won't get them. And you know, so
I think logging in might be the most difficult part too, because it's like you're logging in not as your student, but it's once you get it, you get it. It's
but if you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't have anyone to teach you and guide you, it's kind of a process that you can get lost in. Even with going to more traditional, I'm speaking now to the younger folks. Actually, this applies to everyone. Going to any institution, if you don't understand like the loan process and stuff, you could put yourself in a really bad situation in the future if you're taking more money than you actually need, which understandably some folks do. But you know, the implications that has. And I think that our financial aid department does a really good job of explaining all those options and alternatives to folks so that they make informed decisions. They're not just making decisions because this is the only entry way into the school. If I don't do this, then I can't get into the school. No, we want folks to make the informed decisions. We're not looking to fill seats just to fill seats. We're looking to fill seats so that people can be successful, accomplish their goals, and graduate. If the end goal isn't graduation, then I don't think that we're doing a good service. So the end goal is always going to be graduation.
Now, I believe you said this, so there are virtual opportunities except for that one class, correct?
Yeah. So all classes are in our learning management system, with the exception of the cohort, which is always done in person. And sometimes people don't understand the importance of being in that space until you're in that space. You know, I as a recruiter, because I was a recruiter here at first, I used to tell people you just have to allow yourself some grace and trust the process. Thankfully, coming into being a recruiter at CU, I had a lot of community connections. So a lot of the folks that I ended up enrolling into the school were folks that knew me personally through work that I had done in the community and trusted that I was leading them in the right direction.
When are your application acceptance? And no, there's a better word for what I'm trying to say. What are the enrollment dates?
Yep. So the enrollment cycle for the spring ends the week of November 19th. Meaning we'll stop taking applications then and probably stop admitting folks about a week or 2 after that, only because our semester the spring semester starts early January, and we just want to allow people enough time to be able to do the workshops. And we understand that really after December 1st, people's minds are shifting to different things. And historically, we've learned that people won't be able to make those commitments because they have other commitments with family, which by far is probably more important than anything else that we're gonna give you within those workshops. So we cut it off then to allow for folks to be able to do those workshops and be successful.
Wow, I'm amazed that this is available. I feel like a lot of people don't know. We got to get this word out.
Definitely gonna get the word out. You got a new partner now, Jose. So
So someone's listening, they want to learn more, they need to go to College Unbound.
Edu. And if all else fails, you can also reach me by email at jrodriguez@collegeunbound.edu.
And if anyone feels like they might have some barriers, it sounds like they should reach out. And
Step one should always be reach out. Don't let preconceived barriers steer you away from what is in front of you.
feels like there's no barriers.
That's right. College Unbound.
Yeah.
It's unbound for real.
Yep.
That is the goal.
Thank you so much, Jose. This has been great. We hope to get you lots of students.
I would love it. And I also have to point out that I love the frame, the picture frame behind you. Does that happen to be the Newport Bridge?
That's the Newport Bridge and our Totally Preventable
see
podcast
if I
logo.
Okay.
See if we can lift it up.
Oh, no, because it's that camera.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Just gonna try and maneuver.
Hold on, I'm
for you.
connected to everything.
So because I am a Rhode Islander, I remember when that True Lies, the movie,
Oh yeah.
that bridge took some impact.
That was here?
Yeah, that was Newport. They shot that in Newport, yeah.
I want to watch that movie tonight. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh,
Yes, sir. See, I learned you something. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll be sending my enrollment in now.
Thank you so much, Jose. It's been great to meet you and learn all about College Unbound.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thanks.
Thank you.